Alright, how's it going, everyone? You're watching the Green Dream Project. Jim here.
And Jessica.
And this video is a little different. We're going to talk a little bit about crew. So there's been some recent developments, and we just kind of wanted to get on here and just share exactly what we've learned, what's going on with them,
And tell a little more about his story.
We don't know a whole lot about dogs, much less Akitas. And suddenly we found ourselves kind of large and in charge. Well, in charge of a very large dog. And it seems to us that his behavior was sort of just getting a little more erratic, a little bit harder to control. So I ended up joining a Facebook group, Akita World on Facebook. And I just ended up posting a little bit about how I came to be here and what we were dealing with. And then, I got some suggestions saying, you might want to seek, professional guidance and training in Akita and stuff like that. But then, oddly enough, we actually got in contact with people that knew him. One of the ladies on the Facebook group asked me to post a picture. She recognized him. And she immediately said, get his thyroid checked. In fact, that's what a lot of the people that were very Akita knowledgeable had suggested right away. He's put on a lot of weight. He's heavier than he should be. And that could explain a lot of his behavioral issues.
And we learned that quite a high percentage of Akitas do have thyroid problems.
We're reading on the paperwork that they gave us that the likelihood of an Akita developing thyroid issues is 70 to 90%. And those can even get higher if the dog has been spayed or neutered.
Thyroid imbalance can cause a lot of different symptoms.
So of course the weight gain, increased aggression, anxieties, it can cause lethargy, right? A host of problems, and it's a very sneaky kind of development. There he is. He's like, they're talking about me. A bunch of people actually were on Akita World that were very familiar with Crew. And we got to hear a little bit about his background, a little bit about his story before he ended up being adopted by Peter. So Crew's story is a little bit of a sad one, and it entails a trip across the country. We don't know much about what happened with Crew before he ended up in a shelter. That's where the story begins, in a shelter out in Utah. It was there that he had a mate at the time named Tina. A rescue had found out that these dogs were in this shelter in Utah and they wanted to help. But unfortunately, help came too late. Crew was shipped out. And this shelter did not know how to take care of Akitas. They didn't know anything about the breed. So unfortunately, Tina was euthanized. The rescue couldn't make it there in time to save her. Now at this point, they didn't know where Crew was. He was just shipped out. But luckily, he was shipped out to a shelter in Montana. And this shelter was reaching out because they wanted to hopefully send Crew over to a rescue. So that's how they found out that he was in the shelter in Montana. This means that Crew was fortunately able to stave off the fate that Tina had. When Crew was in the shelter in Montana, the rescue picked him up. And the closest rescue that they could send him to that had an open space was in Wisconsin. So it was going to be quite the trek getting him from Montana to Wisconsin. Not everyone can just make that trip, spur of the moment, and one person did not. So from Montana, they took him south, 3 days, to Colorado during a blizzard. So you can imagine how crazy that must have been. I personally have been in some blizzards in Colorado, and they can be kind of crazy. So from Colorado, a trucker picked him up from there and drove for a week with him to his home. Now, crew stayed there for a couple of weeks until there was finally an opening at the rescue, and then it took 3 other people to get him from there over to the rescue in time. So crew's definitely been a well-traveled little pup. Except he's not little and he's not a pup. And I don't know how long he was there. You probably don't know either, right? So we don't know how long he spent at the rescue there in Wisconsin. But that was where Peter ended up picking him up. And I talked a little bit about that before, but Peter lived in a neighborhood that was not so nice. So he was looking for like a big kind of guardian dog. He was on the market for that. And I guess he found him. Or actually, I think Crew found him. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Crew had one of the most remarkable reactions when meeting a person. He actually kind of stood up on his hind legs and put his paws on Peter's shoulders. And he has never done that with anyone.
He looked Peter straight in the eyes and claimed him.
Crew was like, guess what? You and I, we're together forever. But that wasn't the case either, that wasn't. So, Crew lived with Peter for a while in Wisconsin until he decided to move down here with us. We lived up in Coolidge for a little while, and that was tricky with Crew and the collies both in the same house at the same time. Then, of course, we moved down to the land, and then Peter ended up moving on. So we're kind of like in kind of the main caretakers of him right now, right? So that's where we are now. We're gonna take Crew to the vet, check his thyroid, see what's going on with that, and then I think we'll have a plan of action from there. Hopefully there's nothing wrong. Maybe he's just getting a little too much kibbles in his bits. And who knows what his future holds. I mean, he's in our care, but technically he's still Peter's dog. So whether he stays here for a long term or Peter picks him up, it's difficult to say. Until then, I want to make a comfortable place for him. We definitely have to learn more about Akitas because we don't know, again, how to take care of a dog, much less one with needs of an Akita. They're a lot different than your average dog. They're very sensitive animals. People think they're very aggressive, but that's not really the case. They're just very sensitive, emotional dogs. And Crew's no different. Very scared. There's a lot of anxiety. Obviously, what's the animal going to do if it's scared and nervous? It's going to lash out. So that's where we're at. And we just take it one day at a time with Crew, and he's good for the... He's pretty good. He's very, very sweet, very loving dog. But we got to train ourselves to know how to take care of him better. Alright, thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. Again, we just hope Crew ends up being healthy after the vet visit. Hopefully he gets a clean bill of health, but if not, we'll go from there. If you enjoyed hearing a little bit about Crew, about what's going on here, please give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Just to see what happens with Crew. Follow along on his journey. Share it with a friend or two because people want to know about this story. Thanks a lot for joining us, everyone. We'll catch you on the next video.